Glowfly Rush is the most dreaded wave of Salmon Run and is the main cause for many unsuccessful shifts. So in this video I'll try to guide you through all that is to know about Glowfly Rush Wave, the most common mistakes, the solutions to them, and some of the advanced and best strategies to use to help the community succeed more. This guide was made with the incredible help of Salmon Run Discord server and Overfishing Discord server with valuable input and resources from many top-level Salmon Run players that you can all find in the description of this video. But welcome to Salmon Run everyone, this is a weekly series for Salmon Run sharing tricks and tips about weapons or different features so you might have a better experience with Grisco Industries. Now let's begin with the basics and we'll build it all up. Glowfly Rush is one of the possible nighttime waves you can get during Salmon Run. A lot of players don't know or haven't noticed this, but it literally means that these special events can only happen when the wave turns into nighttime, aka it gets dark, so you know you have to prepare for any of the special event waves that exist. During Rush, a random player is selected to be surrounded by glowflies, and a horde of special, weaker version of chums will start rapidly advancing towards the marked player with a goldy salmonid hiding amongst them. Their increased speed makes them extremely dangerous, and you and your coworkers have to keep splitting them as fast as possible while also collecting golden eggs or otherwise risk being overrun or fail completing the quota. It is one of the most challenging waves in Salmon Run as it tests a team's ability to coordinate and work together fast and efficiently, and where skill alone is no longer enough to guarantee victory, but you need experience and knowledge to know exactly what to do, similarly like Griller waves. Salmon Run has a set of rules that determines when and how salmonids spawn on the stage, and its difficulty and time intervals depend on your hazard level and rank. You can check your own rank and hazard level by what the game tells you in your shift history, but you can also use this chart to help you place yourself. For the sake of simplicity, I will use hazard level 100% or professional +1 as my example now, and I'll give a more detailed explanation later. From the beginning of the wave until the end, every second approximately 6 chums will spawn at a location on Glowfly waves, and after every 20th new chum that spawned, a golden salmonid will appear. Every 14 seconds, the location where the rush wave is coming from will also change along with the targeted player, ignoring whether there was a change or not due to a splat, and knowing when the switch happens helps you prepare for a direction change and stay alive, so keep an eye out on the clock. There is a rule on the other hand that there can only be so many salmonids at the stage at once, which was 32 salmonids in Splatoon 2, not sure if that number changed for Splatoon 3, but the point is instead that chums will stop spawning until your team splats more of them on the stage. This is extremely important thing to understand since we know a Goldie only spawns after around 20 new chums have appeared, meaning if you do not splat chums fast enough during the wave, you might not get enough Goldie salmonids spawning and you will fail to deliver your quota. Fun fact that snatchers also count into this salmonid limit, so use it to your advantage whether you want to split them or not. Knowing this information and how Glowfly Rush works is vital to understand this wave is not about surviving, but it is a battle against time and making sure you continuously split chumps to keep a steady flow of goldies spawning on the stage. This ranking I mentioned earlier is made by top Salmon Run player Minarai that shows how the timer and also number of waves change as your hazard levels goes higher and higher, currently only showing professional ranks and above. You can see on professional the direction of the rush changes every 14 seconds, whereas on hazard level maximum, it happens now every 8 seconds. Now we know the basics and how Glowfly Rush works. Let's take a look at the most common mistakes, and in the next chapter, we'll look into their solutions. The biggest mistake that happens to freelance shifts is that players are completely unprepared for this wave, which results in absolute panic, which is the worst thing that can happen during a rush. Players get scattered, and since the rush keeps spawning relentlessly, coworkers are picked off one by one, and it's nearly impossible to recover from that even with the use of specials. The next most common problem is that the team is actually prepared for the horrors of the rush, but everyone has their own idea on how to deal with it, dividing the team into usually 2 groups in relatively close positions. The issue with this is that since chums don't stop spawning, a single bad change of their spawn location or the simple occurrence of one coworker running out of ink on either of the groups is enough to completely destroy the balance and run over one of the groups, which immediately causes an emergency or worse, a panic situation that becomes uncontrollable. The third mistake worth mentioning is a very basic and simple one, which is players just not shooting enough. Glowfly Rush is relentless, and depending on how well your team handles the wave, there might be absolutely no time to stop shooting. You and your team have to keep up with the direction the rush is coming from and keep shooting and pushing them back constantly, as each second wasted takes away from your time to take a break or collect eggs and eventually fail. But do not mistake it for wasting your shots either, as proper ink management is also vital to stay alive during Glowfly Rush. And finally, the last mistake worth mentioning is wasting time. Often groups manage to form some form of strategy on how to handle the wave, either by jumping between certain platforms or a strategy called wall clinging, and they stay alive this way longer than most groups. The mistake that happens here usually is a combination of not shooting and wasting time. This is why it was very important to explain how Glowfly Rush works in the first chapter, so you know that if a group wastes time by needlessly kiting the rush wave or wall clinging when not needed, they lose out on a valuable fourth coworker who could otherwise shoot as well. You drastically reduce the amount of chums your team can splat, and since goldies spawn every 20 new chums, you also get less golden eggs to deliver, resulting in the worst kind of defeat, failing to complete the quota. And so we finally arrive at our goal on how to beat the Glowfly Rush Wave. It is important to say and understand that different strategies will have different rates of success depending on the rank you're on, such as wall clinging will likely be more successful in lower ranks and shooting near the basket will be better on higher ranks. But know that it is still important to learn how to properly play this wave so that you can reach higher ranks and you will have a better time. Since now we know that chums will keep spawning relentlessly and from different locations, the group has to stay together in order to have a chance of beating them back, and that there is no time to throw eggs around or waste your incapacity needlessly, the most successful strategy is to group up with your coworkers in a safe choke point that's easily defendable and is near the basket. Each stage has a spot that is generally accepted to be best placed to defend against the rush wave that I recommend everyone learning, and also show proper footage on how it's done. The idea is fairly simple. As the whole group stands together at this choke point preparing for the rush to arrive, it is vital for the targeted player to stop moving so they don't change the path the rush is coming from, and also to stop them from confusing their coworkers. Meanwhile, since the whole team is together and fires at the horde, it will be easier to splat them and keep the goldies spawning steadily. This method also helps ink management, as there are 4 players shooting at the same time, there is more room for players to regenerate their ink tank and even collect eggs while doing so without having to throw them since the basket is close. In order to help the team collect eggs, one of the common advanced techniques is when there are enough eggs near the basket and your team has identified where the wave is coming from, you start pushing the Glowfly wave back instead of just defending, and as you slowly crawl forward towards the basket, you pick up the eggs laying around without having to waste ink, and once you're done, you position back at the choke point. In this scenario, it is incredibly important to know whether your weapon is strong or not at splitting chums, since the players with the stronger weapons should focus only on splatting and keeping the horde away, while not as good weapons should also shoot as much as possible, but they should do the most of the egg collecting. Another fantastic way to collect eggs is the use of the wall clinging technique I'll speak more about in the next chapter. It is still very possible to get overrun by this wave staying together like this, which is why it's important to keep your specials ready for when things get a bit hectic to stabilize your position or give your team a breather and help you stay in your well-secured position. So don't be afraid to use your specials during Glowfly waves because likely you will need them, and it doesn't mean that you've made a mistake, it can happen in every single team. There are also exceptional weapons when it comes to Glowfly Rush Wave, such as rollers for example. Rollers are extremely strong weapons against this wave as they are capable of not only splatting a whole horde in seconds, but also to hold them back. Each roller, even the carbon roller, is able to roll through Glowfly chums since they're weaker than normal chums, and by using the rolling tack of only moving very slowly forward in front of your team in order to not waste ink, it will not only block the Glowfly wave from advancing without hurting you, but you alone can splat most of the wave, giving more breathing room and time for your team to focus on the goldies and collect eggs. I have a Dynamo Roller video further explaining this technique for those interested. A very popular and successful strategy that is being utilized and I recommended before for Glowfly Rush is wall clinging. The base idea of wall clinging is, as the name suggests, as you are marked by glowflies, climb on a relatively tall wall and lure the rush wave under you, unable to reach and damage you, while your team has time to breathe up and decide what's next. Now before I go anywhere deeper, the most common comment I usually get here is that, bruh, you're wrong, they can just jump up and splat you. To which the answer is that then the team is not splatting chumps fast enough, or you chose a very bad wall to cling to, since I almost never see this occur in higher ranks, so the most plausible answer is that your team needs to shoot more. The reason wall clinging is very popular is thanks to its fantastic utility in many situations. It can be used at the beginning of a wave to let your team get into position and avoid getting an instant panic. It's one of the best methods to give your team a breathing room when things get out of hand and you might need a revive or two. It's a safe strategy to use to give time for your team to pick up eggs if there's a lot laying around. And it is also excellent to stall for time once the wave is done and you no longer need more golden eggs. Wall clinging also has an exceptional rate of success on lower ranks where the egg quota is much lower than the higher ranks, and it can allow a team to collect eggs safely while keeping a less stressful environment. But it is important to understand the higher your rank and your hazard level, the less you can rely on wall clinging throughout the wave, as the egg quotas you have to complete get a lot harsher. At this point, wall clinging shows its weaknesses, such as a player becoming completely useless in terms of splatting, since now there are only 3 players actively shooting chums and gathering eggs, overall slowing the wave down and wasting time, leaving more room for the team to ultimately fail completing the quota by the end of the wave. Relying too much on wall clinging is also dangerous, as if used carelessly, which usually comes in pair with not understanding how glowfly targeting works, and these teams usually panic the moment the glowfly targets a different player every 10 seconds or so, who is likely in a terrible position along with the whole team. So wall clinging can also very easily open up the whole team into a very vulnerable situation. Ultimately, it is very important to understand when your team needs to wall cling and when it is a waste of time, and hopefully if you watch the whole video, it should be a lot clearer now when and why you should use it. And so we have arrived at the end of this Glowfly Rush Wave guide. I tried to put everything in it that I think is vital to get a good grasp of how to play this mode, but it definitely has more intricacies to learn and get better at, for which I can't recommend the resources already available, such as the Salmon Run Discord server and the Overfishing Discord server, which are both linked in the description. I would like to thank each and every one of the players who contributed to this video with already written information or personal help I asked for, and for being helpful and supportive of the community as a whole. And you all know the drill. If you feel I left something very important out and I made a mistake, let us know in the comment section, and if you have any further questions, also don't hesitate to ask. Thank you so much everyone for supporting the channel and Salmon Report. I hope these guides and episodes will help you all have more fun in Salmon Run, and if you liked it, subscribe for more guides in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time. Bye bye.